Hello, welcome to this lesson here where we're going to be taking a look at powers. Specifically, we're just going to dissect a power in general as to what the pieces are of that power, and then how we can write it out and how we can describe these powers. This is going to help us as we move a little bit farther along into writing out powers as expressions and finding the answer to powers as well. Okay, so a power is an expression that has a base and also has an exponent to it. So this here that we see 6 and 6 to the power of 3 is a power. Okay, so this is what we call a power. This is what we're going to understand is the encompassing thing is a power. Okay, the power is made up of a couple parts. So if we get rid of that there, if we take the 3 here piece, this is what we call the exponent. Okay, you've probably heard that before. It's going to be the number that is kind of, it's superscript is what we call it. It's a little bit higher up and a little bit smaller than the original or than the other number. And so this is what we call the exponent. Now, as an exponent, it can be really anything. We could have an expression in there. We could have just a regular number. We could have a negative number. We could have a variable in there as well. The ones we'll look at in this lesson here are strictly just numbers, and we're going to look at positives to start, and we'll tie into negatives a little bit later on. Now, the 6 is what we call the base. Okay, so we have our base is 6 and our exponent is 3, and these are the two pieces of our power. Now, as you go a little farther along, you may notice that when we're trying to solve for this power, we are taking the base and multiplying it by itself, the number of times that the exponent says. Okay, so that's what we go through when we're looking for the answer to this. Let's do just a little bit of some examples where we just have to dissect each power and make sure that we understand which piece is the base and which piece is the exponent. So in this question here, I want you to explain this one 2 to the power of 4, give the base, the exponent, and I'd like you to write it out in written form. Okay, try it on your own. Once you're ready, unpause the video and then see how you did in comparison to what I had. All right, let's take a look here. What is the base of this power? Well, the base is 2. Okay, that's what it is. It's the number 2, so that's what we're going to be using as we multiply it numerous times. The exponent represents how many times we're multiplying it, and that's going to be 4 times. So it's going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, always have to count on my fingers to make sure I have enough 2's. And then when we write this out, okay, because I will ask that you write them out as well, we're going to write it out as this here, 2 to the power of 4. Okay, 2 to the power of 4. And that's how we're going to write out this power. Let's take a look at this next one here. Let's explain the shape. I want you to give the base, the exponent, and the written form of the power that is made up by the area of the square. I'll pause it here, and I'll allow you to kind of work through it a little bit. All right, so this square, okay, if we want to find the area of the square, it is length times width, which in this case here, because they're the same, is going to be 5 squared. The base is 5, the exponent is 2, and when we write it out, we could write it out as 5 to the power of 2, or we could shorten it to 5 squared. And so that's going to be how we can write these things out. Okay, what about this? It's a cube, side length of 5, explain it with a power, give the base, exponent, and how you would in a written form. All right. So did you get the power 5 to the power of 3? Hopefully, maybe. Okay, so our base, again, same as the last one, the base is 5. But now when we find the volume, we're multiplying all 3 of them together. So it's 5 cubed, which means our exponent is 3. And when we write it out, we could write it out as 5 to the power of 3, or we could shorten that one to 5 cubed. So there's a couple different short forms, one of them being squared, the other one being cubed. Okay, you can use those if you would like. All right, let's move on to something a little different here. So let's explain this power, give the base, exponent, and written form. Okay, the base of this power is -4. Okay, so -4 is going to be the number that we're multiplying numerous times together. The exponent should be fairly straightforward. That is 6. And when we write this out, this is how I want you to write it out. It is written out as -4, okay, that's our base, to the power of 6. And you'll notice there's a comma there behind the 4, and that'll come into play a little bit later on. But make sure that we have it written out as -4, comma, to the power of 6. So let's look at the next one, which looks similar, but a little bit different. Okay, again, give the base, exponent, and written form of this power. Okay, welcome back here. Let's see. The base of this one is 2, not -2 because there's no brackets there. We've talked a little bit about this in the past about the bracket piece, but here we're getting into it more specifically. When we see this power here, it is not a -2 to the power of 7. Okay, it is a -2 to the power of 7. So our base is just 2. Our exponent is 7, and this one here, the entire power is negative. So our answer, we're going to be subtracting the answer, or it's a negative answer. And so we're going to write it like this: negative, comma, 2 to the power of 7. That comma is very important that you have it in the right place, either after the number, if it's in brackets, or after the negative, if it is not in brackets. So what I'd like you to do here, I'd like you to write out this power, okay, give the base, exponent, and the power of -3 to the power of 0. Okay, the base. Do we have a negative base or a positive base? Notice the comma. The comma comes after the number, so therefore we have a -3 as the base. Okay, means we're going to be multiplying -3 numerous times. Well, not in this case. With our power when we're trying to solve it. Our exponent, okay, is 0 to the power of 0, and we can write out like this. Okay. Now we're going to get a little bit more into what the power of 0 means. And that's going to come later on. But for the time being, know that we could use 0 as an exponent. All right, here's another one. -10 squared. Give the base, the exponent, and the power. Okay, so our base is 10, and that is a positive 10. And the reason for that is that the negative is on the power, not the base. So our base is going to be positive 10. Our exponent squared means the exponent is 2. And when we write it out, we have to make sure we include that negative in there, but it's -10 squared. If it's -10 squared, so that means that the -10 or the 10 would be in brackets with a negative, that answer would give us 100, a positive. In this case, it gives us a -100, which because of the difference of how we say it. So be careful with how we write things out. Here's another one, 24 to the power of 12. Give the base, exponent, and power. Okay, the base of this one here, 24. The exponent, 12. I'm hoping that you're able to get that. And when we write it out, it's just straightforward because there's no negatives in there. So we just write it out as 24 and then 12 as the superscript there. How about this one? 14. Give it a shot. Give the base, exponent, and power. All right, the base is 14. The exponent is, anybody get 1? Okay, it is 1. Okay, so every number has an exponent of 1. We don't need to ever write it down. So when we write out the power, we're just going to write it as 14. All right, thank you for going with me on this one here. All the best as you work through your assignment. Be sure to label which is your power, exponent, and then write it out properly. Be careful about the commas.